Hello everyone, nice to see you students. Welcome to this last video of the last class of this strategic management unit. During this video, we are gonna finish the second part overview. You have to remember that you have to watch this overview together with the overview on the sixth class, videos 1 and 2, okay, to make a global overview of the strategic management unit. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to speak a little bit about the final exam that we are having next Wednesday. If you remember, we finished class 9 by speaking about failure, how important it is in business failure, and that you do not have to be especially concerned about failure. Okay, this is a couple of tips for companies in crisis. Before going to bankruptcy, it's very important to follow these tips so that you, as director of a company, do not have personal liability in the bankruptcy. Okay, for example, don't wait too long to declare bankruptcy. Depending on the country, if you wait too long, 2 months, 3 months, 10 months, since you know that you are not going to be able to repay your debt, maybe if you wait too long, you are gonna be personally liable of these debts. Okay, so don't wait too long to declare bankruptcy. Another useful tip is don't drain the company's bank account. It's a very common crime to drain the company's bank account before going to bankruptcy. And if you do so, of course, you're going to be personally liable for the debts of the bankruptcy. And maybe you can incur in some crime as well. Do not provide inaccurate, incomplete, or dishonest information. As we spoke, companies have limited liability, so we can declare bankruptcy and not being personally liable for the debts. But it's very important that we do not provide inaccurate information, incomplete or dishonest information, okay, so that the bankruptcy do not affect us directly. Another very important tip is to not rack up new debt. Do not selectively repay loans. So you have to be aware that the main objective of the bankruptcy is to pay the debtors equal, okay, depending on some kind of degree. For example, it's not the same the treasurer or the banks with the mortgage or the normal creditors of a company, but you cannot selectively repay loans. Okay, so the objective of the bankruptcy procedure is to pay your creditors as they are equals. Okay, so you do not can choose which creditor you prefer to pay depending on your will. Okay, do not selectively repay loans. Another very important tip is do not move asset from your company to yourself. It's a very useful it's a very common crime as well. And finally, don't fail to file income tax returns. It's very important that you have your tax in order. As you remember, on class 10th, we spoke about the European Union economy and the Spanish economy. I encourage you to watch those videos again. And we finished class 10 by speaking about diversification. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages of being in a single industry, of staying in a single industry, but the general rules will be diversification, okay? As advantages of staying in a single industry, you can find focus resources and capabilities on a competing and successful area, and you can focus on what the company knows and does better. And disadvantages of being in a single industry: danger of the industry declining, missing the opportunity to leverage resources and capabilities to other activities, and stop learning. And as you remember, when we are wondering as a company if we have to perform diversification, we have to make a 3 kind of different tests in order to know if our diversification is going to create shareholder value. Okay. First of all, we have the attractiveness test. Diversification must be directed towards attractive industry or have potential to become attractive. So we cannot perform diversification through industries in decline. It doesn't make sense, okay? The second test is the cost of entry test. We have to analyze how much such diversification is going to cost to the company. The cost of entry must not capitalize all future profits. We can just spend a part of the future profits, but not all future profits, okay? And the last test will be the better off test. We have to wonder either the new unit must gain competitive advantage from its link with the company or vice versa. We have to wonder if our diversification unit is going to benefit from our other business units or vice versa. I think, for example, on the case of Amazon Prime or Amazon Video, how they are linked each other, and we have to perform the better of test. And finishing with diversification with class 10, we saw how diversification into new businesses could be through an acquisition, through an internal new venture, or through a joint venture. Here you have, for example, the case of Google. Google purchased YouTube and Motorola. Google diversified through internal new venture through startups, for example, the Google Translate, Google Docs, or Google Maps, and joint venture in the case, for example, of Intel and Android. And as you remember, during class 11, we had a special guest speaker, Angel Martinez, a former employee of NASA, who became a coach, and he spoke us about the 7 main skills required in the working world. He spoke us about the time management, emotional intelligence, team working, stress management, productivity, motivation, and leadership. Well, here you have the main characteristics of the final exam that we have on Wednesday. It will be a 2-hour exam covering all modules, all presentations that we have had, and the exam will be done as a quiz and will consist on 2 easy-based questions and 2 short easy-based questions. So 2 long questions and 2 short questions. The short questions count 20 marks each, and the large questions count 30 points each. The final exam is a 2-hour exam. It will be available on Canvas on next Wednesday, and it will be available during 24 hours from the next Wednesday at 2 o'clock p.m. here Madrid time until the 2 o'clock p.m. on the next day. If you cannot do the exam during those 24 hours, please write me and I will upload the final exam again for you. I really encourage you to study all the presentations of the course. I'm gonna give special importance, for example, to the Porter generic strategies. I'm gonna give special importance for the Blue Ocean strategy, for the Boston Matrix. I'm gonna give importance for the company's codes of conduct. I'm gonna give importance for the competitive advantages process. You have to remember how our competences and resources of a company, how the strategic capabilities of companies can become strategy, and how that strategy can become competitive advantage, and how that competitive advantage could become durable competitive advantage or sustainable competitive advantage. In the words of Warren Buffett, a castle, okay? And in order to protect that castle, we have to build moats, okay? And that's a sustainable competitive advantage. I'm gonna leave you with 1 minute video of Warren Buffett speaking about the importance of moats in capitalism, the importance of the sustainable competitive advantage in our companies, and how those sustainable competitive advantage are our moats, so that our competitors cannot conquer our castles. Thank you very much.
Charlie Munger has had a big impact on me in moving me toward looking for wonderful companies at fair prices rather than fair companies at wonderful prices. And that was enormously important because it enabled Berkshire to scale up in a way that would have been impossible to do otherwise. Yep.
What are the key indicators you look for within companies before making an investment?
Well, I look for something that does give them a moat around it. We have a company called See's Candy out on the West Coast. See's Candy is boxed chocolates. If you give a box of See's chocolates to your girlfriend on the first date and she kisses you, we own you. You know, I mean, we can raise the price tomorrow and you'll buy the same box. You're not going to fool around with success. So the key there is the response. You do not want to go home on Valentine's Day and say to your wife or your sweetheart, preferably they're the same person, you don't say, here, honey, I took the low bid. It doesn't work. Price is, to a degree, is immaterial. If you've got an economic castle, people are going to come and want to take that castle away from you. And you better have a strong moat. You better have a knight in the castle that knows what he's doing.
You're not buying an asset. You're buying a name. You're buying a brand. You're buying a real franchise here. And Charlie was more responsible for that than anybody.
Thank you very much, students. This is the end of this last video of the last class of the Strategic Management Unit. I really have enjoyed being your teacher. I think that you have been a great class. I would have loved to have you here in Madrid, but it has not been possible due to the current circumstances. I really hoped and wish that you come in the future to here to Madrid. I really encourage you to come here to Madrid when this coronavirus crisis passes, okay? Of course, I do not need to tell you that I'm at your total disposal to any query, any question, any doubt, any clarification, nor just during this strategic management class, as well in the future, if you need any advice or you are going to come to Madrid and you wish to write me, I am at your total disposal. Thank you very much, students. I really think that you've been a great class. I'm very happy with your performance, okay? And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, students. And I'm going to say goodbye with a 1 minute video of Steve Jobs speaking about the importance of passion in life. It's a very useful video. It's been very useful for me. I hope that you enjoy. Thank you very much, students.
I'm wondering what would be the single most valuable piece of advice you'd give us to even attempt to create some of the value that you guys have done in both your very impressive companies.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion.